Hello and welcome back. I think this is my first structure performance video where I'll be testing out two different structures, and I have decided for the first video to pretty much test out the two most popular structures in the game, Alpha and Bianca Verity. Now these two structures are also pretty much my personal favorites, and they're also the favorites of many other players, and they are at the moment the most powerful structures, and well, it will be interesting to see how they compare with each other, and of course they are indeed very much different. Speaking aesthetically, they are very different, and the design and overall the aesthetic figure of both of these characters is pretty unique, and all of these costumes look really good and overall are really well designed. And this is one of those aspects where this game is truly shining, and those are the graphics. And let's take a look at Verity, of course. And well, she looks pretty good, and of course this character did get a really unique costume, or should I say really unique skin, this update, and I'll be showing you that skin in a moment. It is also one of the first skins that did give you extra effects. It colors your lighting in pretty much a black color, and it looks really good. And overall I am a fan of the designs of this game. They are indeed making a really good job at it, and of course the famous maid outfit, which also looks really good on the character. So you can see that these two characters aesthetically and overall physically are very much different, and overall are both looking very good into their respective ways. Well, the second big difference is Alpha is pretty much 100% physical. She is excellent at dealing damage to a single target, and also excellent at taking out multiple targets with the help of supports, of course. And she has really high damage and really high burst, and overall is the highest burst in the game. And as for the equipment, since she is 100% physical, that means physical memories will suit her pretty well, and I pretty much have the first memory lineup, and that's the lineup that I'll be using. And of course you can also be creative and pretty much try out your personal build. This game does allow us to do that. And of course the lineups, really interesting, and overall you can also choose your own personal lineups that you like, and of course the lineups that you like to play with. But overall you should choose the lineups to support this character, since she is a DPS class. Well, Bianca on the other hand is 20% physical, 80% elemental, in this case lighting. She has also really high damage, really interesting high burst, and you will see what I mean. And overall is a pretty strong elemental, might very well be the most powerful elemental character in the game. And overall this character is really easy to play compared to Alpha. You will see what I mean later on in actual tests, and here you can see the memory lineups and overall the builds. And this is where things get interesting. Since this is 80% elemental, 20% physical, you pretty much want to get that elemental damage out of her as much as you can. So build wise you will be pretty much limited to lightning elemental memories if you want to utilize her effectiveness to the fullest. And of course that 20% can be used with two memories that can give you physical damage. Well, and as of course you can experiment, but you'll be quite limited because it's a elemental structure. And for the lineups, this is where also stuff gets interesting. You want to get that elemental damage out of her as much as you can, so a lighting team is a must, and it is highly recommended. And the first lineup that you see here is also really good, and it is a lineup that most people would be using, but in my case I have my personal lineup that I like to use, and it is also equally as effective. Well, those were the basic differences between the characters. Now let me show you the memories that I'm using. Pretty much all of these memories are focused on physical damage, in this case for alpha, and they increase the physical of course the physical damage, critical rate, and of course the critical damage, which is really important for the character since she will be doing a lot of damage with the critical, and you definitely want to put that you definitely want to bring out the critical and overall physical damage in this character as much as you can. And as for the weapon, I have the 5-star weapon fully affixed, unfortunately not the 6-star weapon yet, but the 5-star is doing a pretty good job so far. And as for Verity, I have the 6-star weapon, not affixed yet, so I'm working on it. And well, the memories are pretty much the ones from the main lineup that I did show you. And well, like I said, they are for lightning elemental damage, and overall I think personally one of the best builds for the character is this. Of course you can experiment with your own builds and see what suits you perfectly well. Well, I think that was enough of me talking. It's time to put the girls up to the real task in actual real combat, and let's see how they perform. Well, I will start with Alpha, since Alpha is pretty much well, not that Alpha, that's the enemy Alpha, but yeah, Alpha fighting Alpha. Interesting. I know some people who will be really salty when they see this, but yeah, they will know who they are probably, if they watch, of course. Well, overall, how I use Alpha. Well, I pretty much like to use her as a personal main DPS. I don't know what you thought that I was about to say, but I like to use her as my personal main DPS. I pretty much use her in everything ever since her release, since well, I pretty much mastered her performance and mastered her overall playstyle. A really powerful character with a really powerful and really difficult learning curve, in the terms of she is not forgiving mistakes at all. And this is where things get really different between these two characters. You see, Bianca is pretty much a ranged character, while Alpha is a close ranged character and pretty much a melee character. And that pretty much sets them aside overall by their playstyle. With Bianca, you will pretty much be always at a distance from the enemies, and you will have that range advantage. And it will be a lot harder for you to get hit while you are playing Bianca, since you are going to be constantly at a distance from the enemies. With Alpha, that's a lot different, since with Alpha you will pretty much be constantly, literally in front of the enemies, and you will be fighting them at close quarters. And with the fast-paced combat that we have in the game, there is little room to error, especially since this character is really fragile and she can die really quickly in a couple hits. And a healer is a must for Alpha in the team, since that way you will ensure, if you make any mistakes, that you can heal yourself really quickly. And overall, this character does deliver the proper damage, of course, with the balance in being a really fragile character, and she can die really easily without much of a problem. And this is why I personally like that character a lot, since she does require a lot of skill to be played properly without any major mistakes. Well, let's hop in Verity with another boss, and well, you immediately notice the difference between the playstyles and between the combos of these two characters. Overall, they have their unique moves. This is the famous siege mode of Bianca. Well, we call it siege mode because it feels like a siege mode when you pretty much enter that mode. But overall this is where her main damage comes out from, and her damage also comes out from her ultimate. Now, this character is working really well with the A-Leaf, the one that's currently on my yellow slot, because the A-Leaf can pretty much bump up her damage quite a bit, and it is a lightning damage. So for this character you have a lot more options to boost her damage up, and in a lot of cases this character will appear to be making better scores than Alpha, but in the end it all ends up on the supports, and it all ends up on the enemy. Since all of these characters in the game have their uses, there is no useless character in the game. All characters are pretty much useful at one point at, of course, specific things, and of course you can use them as universal characters. Of course they work, and you can be creative how much you want. Well, you definitely can see that this character is a lot more easier to play, since of course she is ranged. She does forgive mistakes, she is a lot less fragile than Alpha, she can take a couple hits compared to Alpha, and overall her damage output is pretty moderate. Of course it is lightning damage and the scores will vary, and since I don't have a physical support, that's where the slight difference in score comes from. But overall the characters are pretty much really similar, and in damage wise are also really similar. Well, this is the physical warzone, the physical map, one of my personal favorite maps in the game, and overall this character will dominate the physical map without a doubt. She is pretty much the best thing that you can use on this map for the best possible scores. Of course, that doesn't mean that other characters cannot reach her score. They can, of course, but this character is pretty much one of the best to be used for this map. Compared to the overall, compared to other performances, this character does shine a lot, and pretty much is really famous for her physical performance in the Warzone, and overall for her physical performance against enemies that have physical weakness. And okay, let's see, things will be really interesting once we hit the final Warzone, or should I say the third map, since I'll be playing this character and then we are going to be playing Verity, and then we can compare their different performances, and we can actually see the difference between the characters, the gear, and pretty much the buffs and supports, and we can kind of see the conclusion on how much important skill is, and how much important the gear is, and of course how much important the overall damage type countering is. And so far I am pretty much mowing down these enemies without a problem. They are pretty much no match for Alpha, let's be honest. Alpha is just dominating this physical map, and everything pretty much depends on a couple things. Most importantly, one of the most important things that you should note is the skill. You definitely need to be really careful when you're playing the character, because like I said, she can die really quickly and really easily without much of a problem. And like I said, one of my personal favorite characters is Alpha, and especially because she is that much fragile, because she requires skill to be operated efficiently and effectively. And okay, I'm doing so far I'm doing a good job at staying alive. And of course, remember, even if you get hit, you can always bring a medic on your team, and well, just trigger the medic's QTE, and then the medic will restore your HP, and that way you can keep on fighting a lot longer than with getting hit. But of course, the main fun at this character is the sword waves, are sword waves, since that's where her main damage comes from. And then secondary, her ultimate is also where one of her main damages comes from, since her ultimate deals so much damage. It is really, back in the day before the elemental nerf, before the elemental fix, my apologies, nothing was nerfed, everything just was balanced out. Before the elemental buff, this character was dominating everything, because back in the day elementals weren't that much powerful. But the developers thankfully listened to the players and they did buff elementals. And now elementals and physicals are on a even standpoint, which is something I personally like a lot. Well, we run out of time here. Not my best run, but it serves as an example of how much skill matters when you're playing the character. And of course, don't worry, I will do a rematch after the Verity game. I will rematch this character because this wasn't my best run, and I personally made a couple mistakes on purpose just to show you how much easy it is to mess up in this game, and how much easy it is to actually die, because this game overall is really difficult, and this game does not forgive mistakes that much, especially Alpha. Alpha is really powerful, but at the same time Alpha isn't forgiving any mistakes, and playing Alpha definitely requires a lot of practice that I personally still have to master. Still I make a lot of mistakes, I can admit that, it's no shame admitting mistakes, and I am still trying my best to learn her as much as possible. Well, that was as you can see, even with Bianca, I can mess up, you can mess up with pretty much any character. I did waste my evasions, and I did waste couple attacks there, and I wasn't satisfied with them, so I retried. And now things will be really interesting. I started really good, and well, I am doing a really good damage on these enemies. Now you should keep in mind, those enemies have physical weakness. They are pretty much weak to physicals and physical damage. I am doing elemental damage mostly, 80%, and still I can do a good job at clearing them. So, for example, if you're aiming for just the reward, you can pretty much get the reward without a problem with this character. Even with the damage countering, you can do it without a problem. It works really well. And afterwards, we will test out the same thing with Alpha. We are going to use Alpha in the lighting zone, and then we will see how Alpha will perform in the lighting zone, since that's also one of the important things in the game. The fact that you can use multiple characters for multiple war zones, multiple damage types, gives you the flexibility that you pretty much want when you play games like this, because sometimes you will not have the required character for something, and then you will have to use someone else. Okay, sorry for the weird delay. And well, we are slowly but surely nearing the end of this war zone, and after that I promised a rematch with Alpha, because I didn't play as much as I didn't play as good as I like. But well, let's see the score. I think the scores will be pretty similar, and I think personally it is pretty fair that you can also use other structures really effectively, even at other war zones, because like I said, sometimes you will not have the required structure and you still want to clear it for the reward, and you can clear it for the reward just fine without any problem. Well, time for that rematch with Alpha. And now I will be playing a bit more serious, and let's see what I can do. Let's see what I can do with this current gear that I have. Now I admit, my weapon, the 5-star weapon, is definitely bottlenecking me a lot because it prevents me from my full potential. But overall, the weapon does a decent job at doing damage. I like it, so well, I will use it. It's not a big problem, honestly. I will use the weapon, and so far I am pretty happy with her performance. And as you can see, the difference between the damages is clearly there because of the physical war zone, where we have a physical damage buff. I think it's a 20% buff, and of course we get a 20% elemental buff on the elemental stages, also really important. And let's see what happens over here. So I have 56 seconds. So will I beat my own score? That's the biggest question that I have for myself here. And let's see what will happen. Ultimate popped off. Now she is excellent at killing those enemies. She is taking them out really efficiently, really quick, as expected from a physical character on a physical map. I'm personally really impressed by the character, and also really important, something that I almost forgot to mention. There is no useless, I think I did mention this, but let me just repeat this. There is no useless character in the game. Useless characters just don't exist here. You can get literally the same score here using B ranks. I'm not even joking. You can get the same score with the B ranks if you try hard enough. Well, let's keep on. Let's jump on the next stage. This time the lightning stage, and clearly the score difference was there. I did clear the stage a lot more efficiently, and overall, I don't know what happened there. By the way, the video just cut off by oh well, never mind. I guess it happens. The score was, I will pop the picture of the final score after that alpha run. I think it was 225,000, not 250,000. Major increasement from Verity score, of course. That is to be expected. And again, my apologies for that not showing up on the screen. I have no idea what happened, but I'll pop the picture there. My editor is slowly trolling me, but oh well. I guess it happens. Never mind. Well, this is the lighting stage, the lighting elemental buff. We have a 20% or 25% buff to the elemental damage, and you can expect to see really decent performance from Verity. Now, one thing that is definitely true, we still have one more lighting character in the game. I used her a lot before. It is a Lucia Dawn. She's also a really good character, but she is really difficult to play in terms of really risky. Her playstyle is truly risky. You definitely need to be really careful when you play that character, because you will constantly be up the close range with the enemies, and she is as fragile as Alpha. Maybe a little bit more tankier than Alpha, but as fragile. And you definitely don't want to get hit, and that was a bit hard because the lighting stage is anything but easy to not get hit, as you will see here in this video. So I am playing the third stage of the lighting map, pretty much the final map, and as you can see, she is doing a phenomenal job at taking these enemies out. Her damage is truly impressive. Pretty much, I personally think, by my own personal experience, that this character has the highest elemental damage out of the other elementals. One of the other elementals that kind of gets close is Watanabe Phoenix or Phoenix Star. He is excellent as a character. One of my favorites as well. He is really smooth. His combos are excellent, really smooth without any delay. Fluid in terms of the combat doesn't abruptly stop. It is constant. The combat keeps on moving and moving even when you play and pretty much when you do the combos. And that character might be the second highest in terms of damage. And get a hang of this. That character is a A rank that everyone can get for free without a problem. And of course, during the event, you can also get that character for free. I did get the character for free in the event, and pretty much I've been using the character. Like I said, pretty much my personal favorite. He is a dark elemental damage dealer, and as a dark elemental damage dealer, wait, what the hell happened there? Did you see that? She did some matrix move on or something. She pretty much fired the lighting in front, but she popped the lighting behind her. Well, okay. Bianca became Neo over here. Jesus Christ. Well, anyway, nice score there. I kinda beat my own score there. It is the weekly tryhard in me. Weekly tryhard in me is definitely pushing me to the limits. Well, let's hop in with Alpha and let's see how she will complete the lighting stage. Now, there are a couple major differences between their playstyles. I kind of forgot to speak about it. I'll address it now. When you play with Alpha, you pretty much revolve around the blue orb, 3 blue orbs or evasion plus 1 blue, and pretty much any other signal, and then you pretty much do the sword wave. That's where her main damage comes from. Of course, you can use the other combos if you like. They're also pretty decent, and well, I use them constantly because I personally like them and they work. They do damage. For Verity, it's also very interesting. For Verity, you pretty much do well. It is pretty much they work on the same principle. 3 blue plus 3 red on Verity, and she enters the siege mode. And with a difference, over here Alpha isn't getting any buffs from any other signal, while Verity can actually get buff from the yellow. So for Verity, in my case, what I personally like to do is I farm 3 yellow, then I pop 3 yellow, I pop the support A-live, then I pop up the 3 red, and then I tap the 3 blue, and then I enter the siege mode, and then I do peak amount of damage. And pretty much that's how you play that. That's how you play those characters. Now, of course, you have those different combos. You can also use the 3 yellow plus the support leaf for the ultimate. It also works really good. And pretty much that's how you play these characters. And overall, their performance, like I said before, is pretty close. They have both weaknesses and strengths, and they are both top tier damage dealers, and they are useful for their respective stages. And again, that's a pretty decent score compared to Verity's score on the physical map, judging the fact that I don't have the 6-star weapon for the character. Well, that was it for the little comparison that I did. It was my pleasure to play this for you, of course, and it was really interesting to see the differences between the characters. Both of them are excellent characters, and in my case, I use them both in the same team actually. You might have seen that in some previous videos, since, well, I just can't separate these two characters since I love them both a lot. Well, anyway, I hope that this was informative. It was my pleasure again to play this for you. And with that being said, I love you. And as always, I'll see you next time. Take care.